Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
Welcome to this episode of Touched and Empowered. I am Katie here with Ace, and today's episode is What's in the Cards? Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So basically, Katie and I were sitting here, we're like, we don't know what to talk about. So
Nope.
we're going to relate this theme to sometimes you got to leave it up to chance and then just be flexible with it. Because that's actually when you can have a lot of fun,
And get a lot of random things.
right? Have you ever taken a dart and thrown it on a map of the United States or the world?
I've seen it done a lot in videos, in movies. Favorite one being Dr. Dolittle. Stick a pin in a map to see where we go.
Yeah, or just throw a dart and be like, oh, looks like we're going to Tanzania. Like I have not done that. I've never, but what I do love to do is basically create some type of like loose game with a little bit of
A little bit of chance,
a little bit of chance.
a
So
little
we're
bit of
gonna,
hope, a little bit of faith,
yeah,
a little bit of I have no clue what's going on.
yeah, and a little bit impromptu because then we can get things. That's my opinion. That's where creativity really thrives. Is yes, there's some structure here and there. A lot of people sometimes they get nervous with that, right? Like choice is quite a empowering yet scary thing to have.
Yes.
Right? Because now you have to take full responsibility of the choices. So, with that being said,
With that being said,
to enjoy some chance. So the first card that flies out, we're gonna
we're gonna play with. Okay. And by play, we're just gonna whatever strikes us based on what the card tells us.
yes, and see what wisdom comes forward.
Oh, I don't know if I can be very wisdom today. I will try.
But you're always wisdom filled.
I appreciate that, but there are some days where you feel like you know everything, and then there are other days that you question everything that you know.
That is wise.
I'm glad you think so.
Now that like there are days where you think you know everything, and there are days where you think you don't know, or you question what you don't know, or you question
You question everything you know. Yeah, whatever it is.
the first card that flew out is transformation.
Which we have talked about here and there since the beginning of our podcast, actually, in reference to different types of transformations.
Now let's talk about the types of retransformation. The types of transformation, right? The second card that flew out, rebirth.
Reverse.
Rebirth.
Oh, rebirth. Yes, rebirth is definitely a type of transformation.
It is one of the most intense transformations you undergo.
True. And the one that comes to mind is that of a butterfly, because it is a caterpillar being rebirthed as a butterfly. And that is a huge transformation.
Well, you know, you have the sweet version of it in your mind.
Yes, I do have the sweet version of my mind because there are a lot other more painful transformations that happen as well.
All right, so folks, for humor's sake, she thinks butterfly. I thought dragonfly, Dark Night of the Soul, like we're going through that.
Went through fire lizard. Yeah, been there, done that, and
I'm going through it now.
Every transformation has some aspect. I'm just going to call it uncomfortable. And on a scale of 1 to 10, that number could be anywhere. It could be slightly uncomfortable, or it could be very, very, very painful. We all have our own variations of transformation as we go through life. And even though I hadn't considered this, we quote unquote go through a transformation when we go from being a toddler to a preteen to being a teenager to being an adult. We might not physically go through a lot. Well, we go through puberty, but there's not a lot of physical transformation like caterpillar to butterfly. But there's still transformation aspects in our world that we go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're looking at me like, Katie, why do you say you have nothing wise to say when you spout out something like that? I have no clue.
That's wise.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody finds it as wise, because to me this is just the spoutings of Katie's brain, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure my brain's turned on all the time.
Isn't it funny when the wisdom pops out when you're not turned on?
There are times I would much rather be turned on.
That is fair. That is fair. It's a wonderful preference. I've noticed most of the things that I've said that are actually remarkable happen to come out when I'm half asleep. It's like
Yes. Oh my gosh, being half asleep comes up with some of the most brilliant statements. It's insane.
why do
And I think I know what it is. I think it's because when we're half asleep, our filters are not completely in place. So, at least for me, before I have my first cup of coffee, I say some random stuff.
I?
And my son can attest to this.
Great.
Because I will share weird dreams. Like, for example, I'm going to share this even though it's completely random. Um, Earlier in the week, I had a dream about having a cat. Not a big deal. I used to have a cat. I've had dreams about cats before. But this was the first time I ever had a dream about a hairless cat that was tattooed in patches of rainbows. So it looked like someone took handfuls of colored paint and threw it, and it was just speckled in rainbow paint, but it was tattooed on a hairless cat.
See, I like your dreams.
Now, I am sharing that. I'm not sharing all the horrible dreams that I had, but that
Right.
is the weirdest dream that I've had this week, anyways.
I understand that. I think the weirdest dreams that I've had this week, not fun. Like
Yeah, I mean, I could have been totally freaked out about that, or I could chose to make light of it.
that is true. I made light of it after they were, you know, so I had like 3 consecutive dreams of my anxieties and fears like in my face.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, you can't make rent. I was like, what do you mean I can't make rent? Oh my gosh, like panicking in the dream and I just paid rent. The second one,
Yeah, I remember having dreams like that.
no, it's bad. Then there was another one where I texted it to somebody. Isn't it funny how we forget what they are? Where like I had this panicky feeling and I couldn't perform in the dream. And then I was like depressed for the next 2 days. I was like, why?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I remember hearing, reading, being told that we process things in our dreams.
Yes,
So then that way we're not trying to figure them out with our conscious brain with all of the filters and everything that we have in place.
this is true. Yeah.
And realizing that I can poke fun at having a rainbow colored cat because it's fun, it's funny, but it's really hard to put that humor on it when you have a dream that strikes you high on the anxiety level, on the fear level, on, one of these other emotions that just kinds of like causes you to catch your breath, your heart to race, and you feel like you're actually living and breathing the event that you're dreaming about.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So Katie and I think we talked about this, but about 3 weeks ago, a guy pulled a gun on me.
Yes, you did mention that.
I
We hadn't
did.
talked about it on the podcast, but we talked about it.
Yeah, yeah, I was still processing it, and literally 3 days later, I went through brain spotting trauma therapy, right?
Right?
And it was interesting because we talked about that one event, but it was like maybe 5 minutes. Then we unloaded all the other near death experiences that I haven't processed. Yay! That were that were exhibiting the same emotions that I still needed to process as well, right?
Right.
And apparently, when a dam breaks,
Everything gets let loose.
everything gets let loose. So it flooded into my dreams.
Which that makes sense. And one of the things that I have found because of some training that I've received in reference to grief recovery, the emotions that we process over a loss, and it could be any kind of loss, are cumulative. So let's say, for example, you lose your favorite stuffed animal when you're a child. If you don't process the grief of losing that relationship with that stuffed animal, all these other tiny little losses throughout your life build up and build up and build up and build up until all of a sudden there's a big loss in your life. And then it's like the whole world is coming to an end.
Yeah, I was actually reading about the stages of grief yesterday, Katie. I love that you're saying this. By the way, yes, this loops into all of the
All of
transformation
transformation.
and rebirth. So, folks,
Which
going off into tangents.
it's interesting that you mentioned the stages of grief, because I think that is inaccurate. The stages are inaccurate.
I agree.
Good.
It's not linear. The stages are not linear. A lot of people think that it's one after the other, and it's not. So it was interesting because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm just being hyper speed, heal, move, transform, watch. Like
Right.
that's where I'm at. Like 3 weeks ago, God, about maybe 2.5 months ago, I had the dam break as well on grief. There were a bunch of losses that I went through this year alone. Like there were 3 deaths in my friends and family, and then there's still some unprocessed grief that I just really didn't think I needed to focus on for a few other deaths that have happened in my life. And it comes in waves,
Right.
but it is really detrimental to not do your healing. It's really important. I found that while I was reading it, when it compounds, not only does the loss hit, but you can lash out angry. You could go into addictions. Like when you're not processing your grief in a way that is constructive and value creating, you really can become a liability to yourself and others. So it's really important to be able to not go in that pathway, but making
Yes.
this, yeah.
Yes, and there's a lot of the things that I am learning as I am not becoming certified as a grief recovery counselor. I'm just putting that out there, but I am going through the process as a student because one of my friends is becoming certified. And going through the book that was recommended and reading these quote unquote stages, that when the stages were originally created, they were created specifically for the steps that someone goes through when they are told they have a terminal illness and only have so much long to live.
Wow.
Because the first step is denial. But if you ask any person who is mourning somebody who passed away, there's no denying the person passed away. There's no denial. I mean, that step just doesn't exist. So I like the idea of people being able to acknowledge that not their process, but acknowledge that their emotions are moving because they can kind of see where it might fit in these separate categories. But every grief is different because the grief is connected to a relationship or a memory or an event or an identity. And it's however your relationship is with that. For example, when I lost my grandmother, the relationship I had with my grandmother was completely different than the relationship my sister had with my grandmother. So we both grieved very differently, even though it was the same person who passed away. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that there's no right way to grieve. There's no wrong way to grieve because it's different for everyone. So
just grieve.
Do what feels best for you because grief is purely emotion and has no logic to it whatsoever.
Agreed. As long as you don't run from it.
Yeah, don't run from it. That is one of my biggest myth was time heals all wounds. I can deal with it later. Yeah, no, that is so not accurate for me.
That's a statement right there that I wish no one told me. But I understand.
Well, I mean, think about anytime you've lost something. It could be a stuffed animal, it could be a pet, it could be a family member, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be your first boyfriend, girlfriend. We had an emotional response to the fact that what we thought was our normal was no longer our normal. Emotions and logic don't always connect.
It's true. Yeah. So what's interesting is yes, rebirth, right? We just talked about the transformation to the rebirth.
Right.
And how in between there is a grieving process in the rebirth because something's dying, right? Something that you've lost.
Yes, something is lost, yes.
But something is also being reborn. So what I found really interesting was I suffered a loss that broke the camel's back, right?
Right.
And now that I've been unloading and working with the right trauma therapist, brain spotting expert, to help me process the losses, what's really interesting is I'm starting to see things differently in a way where, after you shed all the tears,
right,
I've been able to clearly see, oh, go in this direction. Oh, there's hope. Oh, there's a $2,000 coin under your bed. Go clean your apartment. It is quite interesting what happens during the rebirth because a lot of people fear the loss or fear the feelings of having that loss, and then they run away, which is understandable, right? It hurts, but the rebirth on the other side is what's so exciting and
yes,
gradual. I get it. It sucks to be in emotions, but there is something to look forward to as you process through those emotions.
And one of the things that I found is, I remember in The Sound of Music, whenever a door closes, God opens a window.
That was in The Sound of Music?
That was in The Sound of Music. It was, you're going to have to watch the movie now. But yes, it was in The Sound of Music. Oh, okay. The one with Julie Andrews. It was in The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews.
Was it the second tape?
No. She was, huh?
You know how The Sound of Music had two tapes? It had the first tape, and it was so long that they made a second tape.
Oh my God, you're talking about when it was on VHS.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to think for a second. Yes, it would have been on the second VHS tape.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are like me, who didn't realize there was a second tape until I was in my 20s.
Oh my goodness. Anyways,
Sorry, go ahead, please.
but there's a saying that's I remember it from that movie, but I've heard it before. When one opportunity leaves, another opportunity pops up, pretty much. It's the same thing with transformation, with loss. Something has to leave to make room for something new to come in. And yes, the leaving, we have to process those emotions. But once we process them, then we can have the aha, we can have the ooh, something new is coming. We can look forward to what's coming next. We can see what
I'm sorry.
Sorry, there was a mouse walking across my kitchen floor. I need to really set out some mouse traps tonight. I'm sorry. That was so inappropriate.
Please, I want a blooper. I want a blooper on that one.
This is what happens when you own a house. You get pests, and apparently I have a mouse that likes to run through my kitchen.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole. No, I don't even remember what I was talking. Oh, I was talking about something has to leave so something good comes in. Okay.
Like the mouse. When's the mouse leaves?
that mouse needs to go. It needs to leave. So then that way I can have a nice, calm, quiet kitchen. Okay. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I, we're gonna have to leave this in because I really don't know how to pick up before I saw that stupid mouse.
Nicole, we're gonna keep this once the mouse leaves. Left, now we're gonna have new wisdom. This is
Here's the wisdom. It doesn't matter how damn clean my kitchen is. There's still a bloody mouse coming into my kitchen. So I need to figure out some way to take care of it. So help me transform that.
when I was a kid, this is still rebirth, folks. When I was a kid, sorry, that was funny. That like woke me up. We had 3 moles in our house. 3 baby moles.
Okay.
And they were the funniest things ever because they were like they burrowed holes into our couch and would like pop into like our like chips. Like we would have a bag of chips on the couch and they would pop into the bag of chips. It's great. And like there was a point in my life where I totally forgot that we had these 3 moles in our house. They were baby moles. They were so cute. And they would run across, fast attack, run across
Yeah.
from heater to heater. And like once we finally got rid of them, I got a hamster. And my hamster used the tunnels to like to move around the house when it would escape.
Mm-hmm.
See, we went from rebirthing the pest to the sorry, the pest to the pet. Sorry, that's not a good metaphor. But sorry, go ahead, please continue. You went from mouse to rats.
We went from mouse to and the funny okay, side tangent. The funny thing is that I am really annoyed about this little mouse. That I mean, this mouse is like maybe the size of my thumb, running across my kitchen floor. Yet upstairs in my son's bedroom, he has 3 pet rats, and each one is the size of my entire hand. I don't have an issue with them. I have an issue with this tiny little mouse running in through my damn kitchen. Okay.
All right, sorry. Coming back
we're,
to
we're gonna let go of the mouse.
Yes.
I don't know if I can let go of the mouse. I'm gonna try very hard to not. And we're gonna go back to transformation here because the only thing that I can come up with at this particular moment in time is that there are times when things suck, but you have to find the humor in it to get through it.
And the meaning
And and
What
sometimes there is no meaning. I refuse to assign a meaning to the fact that there's a mouse in my kitchen.
so let's look at the spiritual metaphysical symbolism behind a mouse. Can you do that?
You want me to pull up the spiritual animal definition of a mouse? Okay.
That way that we not only do we extract the humor, but we extract the meaning. So folks, in the stages of rebirth, we are pulling this back. So in the stages of rebirth, as she looks up the definitions, essentially what you're doing in that transformation process as you're going through grief, etc., is you're extracting the value, you're extracting the meaning, and most of the time through humor, because humor is healing, so that you have a more stronger, fortified version of yourself. Let's see. Yeah, Chance. Tell me about the mouse.
Mouse symbolism and spiritual meaning of mice. A mouse symbolizes endurance, focus, wit, fertility, optimism, as well as disease and death. Mice are known for their ability to adapt and endure harsh weather, and for using their sharp intellect and taking advantage of the resources around them in order to survive. Yeah, I am even more annoyed at this mouse now.
Let's keep going with the meaning.
A mouse also embodies a representation of peace and innocence more than other animals. Not only that, but mice symbolize courage and persistence, embodying the capability of doing grand things despite their small size.
Yay! Isn't there like a thing like when a mouse appears in your life and this means
A mouse encounters and omens. Mouse encounters are often seen as negative, so negative that it is a strong belief that Satan created a mouse during Noah's time on his ark. Another belief is that mice were the plague that fell from the sky during the storm. But in this I don't think I should be reading this. But in this context, mice are seen as a sign of destruction and evil and are considered a bad omen. If you find a mouse eating your clothes or within your home, it can mean bad luck or even death. However, if you find a dead mouse or a mouse on your doorstep, it means you do not need others to validate you.
Great.
Then again, people are superstitious about mice and ships. If mice are on your ship or boarding in, then it is a sign of good luck, but it is forbidden to say the word mouse on deck. Another mouse encounter involves this rodent running in front of you. When a mouse runs out in front of you or crosses your path, the universe is preparing you for an abundance of wealth.
Ooh.
Okay, I forgive the mouse.
All right, we like that. We like the mouse now. We like that.
Other interpretation says this encounter is encouraging you to obtain a balance in your waking life.
We like the abundance wealth meaning. We're gonna extract that.
We're gonna extract that, and we're just gonna say, you know what? Thank you for the awareness that I probably need to go through and do some kind of patchwork in my kitchen.
There you go. I still like the preparing for abundance and wealth.
I do too, but I don't want it running across my kitchen floor.
Great. Well, I'm not gonna lie, because I've been feeling the same way. I feel like I've been being prepared for abundance and wealth. And on that note, folks.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea what's going on. You know, I'm just life has a way of throwing you through a loop. And again, you have the choice of getting mad and upset and angry and ranting and raving, or finding the humor in it and coming up with something positive to do in retrospect. And I will have to say, that is a transformation for me compared to how I used to process things. I used to always get angry when I saw that mouse. This is like the
That's all
first time I've seen it and I'm like cracking up laughing. And it's probably because I'm on this podcast. So thank you very much, podcast.
That's student power. Thank you. That was so funny. That was I because the way that you went at that mouse, it looked like you were ready to like shoot a gun with your hand. Just I was like, oh,
I
what?
was no,
Yes.
okay. The reason okay, I don't know if this is the reason or not, but we've had mice in the house before. However, I did a deep clean, like pulled everything out of all of the cupboards, scrubbed everything down, cleaned all of the counters, cleaned behind all of the appliances, got on all the corners and all the kitchen. I mean, I did a serious deep clean of my kitchen. And there was no evidence of mice until today.
Because you needed to read that message.
Because I needed to read the message.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the Empowered podcast. Please enjoy your transformation with humor. And don't get me wrong, you're going to be shedding a lot through your transformations. Everyone goes through one.
Yes.
You're not in despair. You're just going through it like we all are. And in that essence of being, you will find the diamonds within that rough that you're going through. I can definitely tell you that for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, that memory is a diamond in my life forever.
I am so happy that I could plant this memory in your life and bring joy. Okay. All right. I love you, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.